Welcome everyone. We're here. We're
queer. Get used to it. That's what you're gonna say, right?
Words and stuff. I'm sober right now. I don't know why I'm fumbling this. This week, as it shows in the title there, we are reviewing Akira. And to start things off, we're going to do what we usually do and tell you all of our introductions to this week's film. The way I have you guys here on my screen, Steven, if you want to start us off, what was your introduction to this week's movie, Akira?
Wow, Akira. What can I say about Akira? Well, how about this? I first saw Akira when I was in middle school, and it horrified me. I was at a sleepover, I believe, and it was like a birthday party, and it came on a random channel. I think it was one of the
Sci-fi.
I don't think it was sci-fi because I don't think we had sci-fi at this point in time. It was like a showcase or something. It was like one of the
29 or 39 or whatever.
Listen, I didn't grow up in the same area as you.
Right. My bad.
But 39 maybe, if we want to get technical.
It was actually 39. It was 39 in Halifax. That's weird.
Oh, weird. Maybe they just decided to succinctly go across the board. We need to get 39 everywhere. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was that because they used to play anime every once in a while. And I wasn't I really enjoyed the anime that I was familiar with at that time, but it was very juvenile stuff, like Pokemon and Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z and that kind of stuff. The things that everybody's familiar with, I'm not going to be able to say Goku to my mom and she'll know what it is, but I would be like, what Dragon Ball Z is, and she might know. She might be like, that's the one with the dragon or something and the balls. Anyway,
nailed it.
Yeah. When I first saw this movie, the reason that we were watching it is because one guy said that there was lots of boobs in it, and I was like, boobs? Okay. And then the whole time I was waiting for boobs, and there's one moment, and it's horrifying when you see the boobs. It's not even good.
Also, she's got to be 15, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
a lot of things wrong with it.
And then I was like, are there more boobs, or is it only horrifying RoboCop levels of violence for the rest of the movie? And it's, to answer that question, it's pretty much just horrifying RoboCop levels of violence for the rest of the movie. And it frightened me. I was actually a lot, and then after that, a lot of anime, if it was late night anime, I was always a little bit nervous because the violence it's top tier violence, man. It's Tarantino level violence.
Love it.
I love it now. Now that I have a fully developed mind and can disassociate horrifying imagery from a craft that is amazing. I really liked it. Anyway, the first time I saw it in middle school, didn't like it, was scared of it for a long time, and I'm obviously familiar with all the iconography, and I have seen it since then, but I don't think I've seen it all the way through since then, because I watched it yesterday and I found myself completely engrossed in everything. And with that, I think I'll pass it on to whomever is next.
That brings us to... Oh, wait, I might be pointing the wrong way.
You're pointing the right way on the Instagram, but on the Zoom, it's just all wrong.
It does
not.
That's
okay. That's okay, because people on Instagram, they don't know about our secret recordings. They don't know that I have the Trapper Keeper Cartman Akira monster as my background. My introduction to this movie was very similar to Steve's, and Kaylin, I'm imagining yours is also going to be very similar. But You have to. Oh, all right. But you have to there's a few things that sort of come together when I think about Akira. It's seeing Ninja Scroll for the first time. My dad rented it actually when I was a really little kid.
Your dad rented Ninja Scroll?
My dad rented Ninja Scroll, and we watched Ninja Scroll.
Man, your dad's a pervert.
It's not that. I haven't seen Ninja Scroll.
I'm calling the police
years.
right now. Your dad is going to jail.
I assume that has boobs in it. It also has extreme violence, just like this movie.
Yes.
But there's another thing that happened that was kind of weird in my childhood, where my dad gave me, like, he collected comic books and he put a manga in my backpack to take to school, and he didn't proofread the manga first. And I want to say it was Ghost in the Shell, but I don't think Ghost in the Shell has like rape imagery.
Was it Ranma Half or whatever that other one?
No, Ranma Half is like kids shit.
Yeah, but there's stuff.
Is there?
But there's stuff, man.
Yeah, because he turns into a girl and stuff.
Oh, I thought I didn't know it was a weird pervert anime. Anyway, I digress.
So I don't think that turning into a girl is perverted. I think that's a fairly normal thing nowadays.
No, but they show stuff.
Oh, okay. You can say boobs on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Anyway, let me just get through this, please. God damn it. So
I was at your dad's house for a sleepover, and he showed me this movie when I was in middle school.
So what happened was I watched Ninja Scroll real young, and I got this manga. It came with a comic book. I leafed through it, and I saw horrific images, and I took it to my teacher, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And the teacher was like, "Oh dear God." So they had a talking with my parents. And then, so that just means though that the, anime experience, it was called Japanimation back then also. And the word anime wasn't coined till the late 90s when Dragon Ball Z came out on television here. But at the same time, so I was of two worlds. I had Ninja Scroll under my belt. I had this horrifying, like, probably messed me up a little bit manga that I had read. I knew what Japanimation was, but at the same time, some of my favorite cartoons were Maya the Bee, fucking Return to Oz, and Astro Boy, which are all famous, which are like the triple threat of original anime.
Maya the Bee was
you don't remember Maya the Bee?
I remember Maya the Bee. I just don't
it was
remember,
the same animation house as Return to Oz and Astro Boy.
Nice.
Toei or whatever. Anyway, so we fast forward till I'm in my formative years. I'm a teenager. I'm probably about 12 or 13. And Akira comes on at a sleepover. And I got to tell you, I had read about it in video game magazines. I had always wanted to see it. There was the promise of boobies. But this thing changed my fucking life, dude. It made me like appreciate like the Japanese view of post Hiroshima America and Japan. It made me appreciate that view so much, because I immediately watched this thing and I'm like, why is it Neo Tokyo, and what is this based off of? And through my teens, the rise of the internet would happen. The vast information superhighway would sort of begin happening. And I was able to read about all of these things and what it meant. And Akira is one of the most important pieces of art probably ever created, because it is sort of the Neo Tokyo sort of equals that Neo post World War II fear of the nuclear weapons. And I know it turns out in this movie that it's not a nuclear weapon you're seeing at the very beginning. It's well, we'll get into the story, but like, I would go on to see this movie many times, but here's the thing. I haven't seen this movie in about 15 years. And there's a giant chunk I don't remember from around the middle. I don't remember that whole fight with the hover plane thing in the sewer. Like, I didn't remember any of that. So I was rediscovering it for the first time, and I'm probably going to watch, this is another movie, much like our John Carpenter month, where I'm going to watch this fucking movie all the time now.
Yeah, so, I ordered it on Blu-ray, and then my partner found it. They have a Crunchy, or no, it was Funimation.
It's on something. Funimation, yeah.
Yeah, and we watched it, and I was like, oh, maybe I can cancel the Blu-ray. And then at the end of the movie, I was like, not canceling that Blu-ray.
Nice.
I want that Blu-ray to show up at my door.
Welcome to my side, Steven. Join me with the physicals.
No, I watched a bunch of stuff today, and I was because it's
features and stuff?
Then they have a lot of technical special features, which I really am interested in. I've mentioned before on the podcast that I'm an illustrator, and I am familiar with animation, and I know how tedious drawing can be and how taxing it can be. and just the sheer amount of drawings that go into a single second of this movie at times.
I mean, that's got to be actually kind of annoying.
Oh my god,
Like,
it is, but at the same time, I'm like, holy fuck, they like that. Oh my god, there's like that scene where the guy's rolling in slow motion.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
They drew all, like every single. It's crazy,
like,
man. It is
you think
crazy.
that this movie though was before, like, you know how The Simpsons is famously made in like China or Taiwan and like basically like a sweatshop like animation studio where there's thousands of people so they can get an episode out every week. Was this movie made like that, or was this movie in the 80s? Did they even have that concept yet? And this is like a small team of animators.
So in
studio.
the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, it's when Japan was like finally getting back on its feet from World War II. Like they were in like a pretty rough patch for a very long time. And animation was one of the things that they were just like boiling under the surface. There was all this animation going on. Things like Astro Boy and the Ghibli stuff, and like, you know, all of these things that were coming out. Though it wasn't really like resonating worldwide, they had these people that were working and honing their craft for like 30 years, and like those are the people that were working on these things.
And it's crazy too, because the shows like Astro Boy, Maya the Bee, and Return to Oz, they weren't on Saturday morning cartoons here. They were on at 6 o'clock in the morning. I used to get up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to watch these shows when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Get a big bottle of cereal, climb up on top of the fridge, and eat a bunch of Flintstones vitamins and cooking chocolate. That used to be my Saturday morning special.
Yeah. Samurai Pizza Cats.
I remember that one. That was a good one.
Even Sailor Moon.
And then Sailor Moon.
A long time.
I watched Sailor Moon. I never told anyone because, like, oh, girl.
I told everyone because I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, who fucking cares? You didn't walk around the playground being like, "Who's your favorite Sailor Scout?" And I was always like,
green one.
Mars, baby. Mars
Venus, the green one. Which one's the green
one? That's Jupiter, I think. Yeah, Jupiter.
Ooh, Jupiter. Yeah, maybe Jupiter.
Oh yeah, no, it is. Yeah, Mercury is the best.
But to answer your question, Jason, like these people had been honing their craft for a very long time, and this movie in particular changed the way that all of those animation studios within the border of Japan like considered animation. And for a minute afterwards, they were really trying to push the bar in terms of like how much they could do in terms of making things look realistic in terms of animation, which is extremely difficult to do because the more realistic, the more frames, the more you have to draw an image over and over and over again. And there are examples in this movie where they do literally 24 images for 1 second. For a second that goes by, there's 24 drawings. That's like 3 days of work for 1 second of the movie, and it's a 2.5. No, it's not 2.5, but it's 2 hours long.
2 hours and 5 minutes. I watched it in 1080p, and there were moments where this fucking thing went into 60 frames a second, and it's surreal. It's surreal to watch these old animes go like. I know it's like upscaled 60 frames per second, you know, because it's a rip of a Blu-ray, but you see it happen and it looks really cool. It happens with old video games a lot when you're playing them on modern TVs. If you're playing on a system where there's no cap and it'll allow it to go up to 60 frames. It happened to me last time playing Resident Evil, the original one, but like the remake. And that thing went into 60 frames per second a couple times. And I was like, wow, that's awesome that they can upscale this stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
What about 64 games?
Nintendo 64, absolutely.
I thought you were going to say 64 games a second.
I'm beating 64 games a second this year. It's trying.
Allow me to regale you with my introduction to this fine.
Oh, right. Sorry. I forgot that we hadn't even done yours yet. Yeah. Sorry.
I forgot you were here.
No, I didn't forget you were here. We just got into a really good convo there for a second.
Yes, we did. And that's why I didn't want to interrupt it. But this guy right here, this cover stood out to me so much.
It's very cool.
Right? When I used to do my little walkthroughs of HMV, and me of all people, I'm almost like ashamed of myself that I never checked this movie out until the pandemic started.
You love Dragon Ball so much and you've never seen
Right.
Akira?
Right? Like I've heard a little bit about it, the name. I saw the cover. I'm like, well, it looks fucking cool. I don't know why I never got it.
You were probably also familiar with like a lot of the imagery from the movie without even really realizing that you were familiar with it.
There's so many things in this movie that I was like that and that and that from other stuff.
There's definitely a few things for sure, and that'll come up later on, I'm sure. But I never, for whatever reason, committed to it. When the pandemic first hit, so Jason, you kind of like just started checking out movies all together. I started going through like the movies you got to see before you die kind of thing or whatever. For the ones that I hadn't, like there's most of them I saw, but there's a few like little here and there that I didn't. This one being one of them, I was like, okay, finally I'm gonna check it out. It's visually so like what I like about cartoons, like, and because it doesn't have to be like a childish thing, as this movie clearly demonstrates. But what I like about animation, I guess, is a better, more adult way of saying it, is you can do anything you want, right? There's no limits. You know what I mean? Your imagination is the roof or whatever. And
it's true.
Yeah. This movie blew me away. I was amazed that I didn't get to enjoy it for more years of my life. And it's definitely one that will be replayed over and over quite often. With
you never saw it on like Saturday night on Showcase. They used to show that like 4 times a year. Like Showcase had like 10 movies they played on Saturday night, and then it would go into Red Shoe Diaries or some weird like pseudo softcore porn.
Yeah.
But it was always like Reservoir Dogs, like, Naked Lunch.
Does anybody else have a boner?
Akira.
I need to fix my pants.
Yeah.
So quick little now when I first watched this, I wasn't entirely sure what I watched. I was kind of lost and confused a little bit. The main gist of this movie,
it's a very confusing movie, but at the same time,
a little bit.
It's actually more straightforward than you think it is, and I think the movie makes you think more than you need to think as to what's happening. But
also, going into this movie with like a lot of Japanese RPGs played is helpful, because there's a lot of tropes that Japanese RPGs took from this movie. So you can work it backwards, and then a lot of little things make sense, like how those three other Akira kids can like all just talk to each other with their minds.
That's fair, but I think that there's also, especially after like the late 90s, a lot of filmmakers in North America really lifted stuff from visually and also thematically from this movie that you would be familiar with if you hadn't seen this movie before, but you'd seen obvious like low-hanging fruit would be The Matrix. Like The Matrix is like clearly a massive influence was Akira when they were developing this movie, right? And
then Final Fantasy VII.
I
felt like I was watching an animated Final
Fantasy. Is that the one with the
movie.
big sword?
That's the guy with the big sword, but the game itself takes place in like a basically Neo Tokyo kind of a city.
It's like an homage almost. Like it's so close in terms of everything. The only thing that's missing is like talking animals.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm sure if we lived in the world of Akira for long enough, we would find a talking mutated animal.
There's definitely Moogles and Chocobos if you just go outside of,
well, that's the thing,
Neo
is like
Tokyo.
This movie, like many anime movies, is based on a manga that exists.
Yep.
And it's a series it wasn't finished yet, so they had to guess the ending, which happens a lot in the animated versions of things. But it also cut out like the middle 4 volumes. I think it like took the beginning and the very end of the series and made the movie. But even this movie is like super long, and it like by the end of it, you're like, it's getting very like cerebral and sort of like out there, where you're like, okay, now it's up to interpretation now. Like everything after this point is whatever you as the viewer think happened, which is fine. But I think after a certain point, for me, I was like, we could have taken the end and maybe just like, because there's two fights that are very similar between Kaneda and Tetsuo.
Tetsuo.
Sorry.
Tetsuo.
I'm sorry. I'm not super Akira fan, even though I'm wearing an Akira shirt.
To be fair, Steve, the Tetsuo thing was also like brought back into internet pop culture when the Tetsuo Kaneda, them yelling their names, became like a supercut and was passed around in the meme circles for a minute, probably fucking 10 years ago. That's where I get the yelling Tetsuo thing from. I do know that it happens in this movie many times. Stay tuned for later when I give you my Tetsuo count.
And when I yell it really loud.
But yeah.
Anyway, what I was saying is I was just saying how I would do a cut, but like it's only because by the end of it I was like, holy frick, it's still going. And I think too, a lot of it is just sort of like, what do you think is going on here, and presenting you with things, and I'm like, okay, well, I could have probably come up with my own interpretation without this stuff. And then also like the fight in the stadium and the fight when the satellite is going off are quite similar. They're not super. I mean, they're not obviously not exactly the same, but like I feel like I could have done with one or the other, or a combination of the two. I didn't need to have two separate ones with a large chunk in between of them leading up into the next one. That's just my own personal opinion. And also I enjoyed both of those moments equally. I just was like, this movie's a little long. One other thing
to get lost in.
It is, and that's something that I was mentioning to you guys before we started recording, was I watched it with subtitles in the original dub, the Japanese dub, and I had a hard time with the subtitles, and it's because I was so overwhelmed with the visuals, and I haven't seen this movie in so long that I was like just looking at everything and like just absorbing everything, even the backgrounds, like when there's like two people sitting in an office just being like, well, we've got to do this and that and this, and then like in the background like the cityscape is slowly moving and like sparkle off a glass, and I'm like, man, this is all so beautiful looking. And then I'm like, shit, I just missed like
imagine
3 things these guys said. I don't think I could handle it.
Found myself having that issue too, and that's why I don't fault people for wanting to watch English dubs of things, especially for anime. Just because of the fact that if you're just reading the subs the whole time, you're gonna miss all kinds of cool action. But also the movie Parasite there's a lot of it's hotly contended to be a movie that doesn't require an English dub. But did I tell
you I watched it without the subtitles?
Yeah, I think you've talked about it on the show, because I've told my District 9 story that's similar, where we just thought we were supposed to just kind of.
Wait, you watched it without the subtitles, but like
in Korean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, interesting.
I don't know what was like the first time I watched it. No idea what was said, but I knew what was going on, and it was an amazing movie.
I think that was part of the filmmaker's intention, considering it did so well in North America. Like maybe he had that in the back of his mind. Like, if I'm gonna sell this to a North American audience, they have to be able to read the subtitles but see what's going on in the movie. Yeah. So you can glance away from the words. There's also not a lot. It's not a script heavy movie.
Yeah. No, yeah. And
not a lot of dialogue.
I'm trying to like replay Parasite in my brain right now, and I'm like, I think maybe I could follow this movie without it, because it's like you get the idea. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But my point is that's another movie where I think I want an English dub of it, just because I want to watch everything that's going on. I think it's on Netflix now, isn't it? Yeah, but I don't think there's an English dub of it even now. I don't think they ever made one, unless there might be a fan one made, because fans just pick up the slack all the time.
Check us out.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that English dubs are always rough, even if it's, if you watch like the Miyazaki stuff or the Ghibli things, the movies that like they hire prestigious A-list actors to do their dubs, it still sounds like stilted and weird because they're trying to keep up with the lip syncing, right? You have like Billy Bob Thornton being like, "Oh, well, you know," he's just like tries to catch up to something. And you're like,
that's weird though, because you
sounds
watch
weird.
later animes. I watched Bleach and Naruto in my mid 20s because I got really back into anime when you were able to torrent
Naruto
everything.
has a shitload of episodes.
Fuck man, Naruto had a shitload of episodes when I stopped watching it, and then now there's
Lopi put me on to Naruto. I
Shippuden.
check it out every once in a while.
Yeah, it's a great show. It's got some really good season finales. And music. Season finales and music are that show's forte. And Naruto's a great character, but I digress. I watched Naruto with English dub, and they didn't have the same problem where the mouth. Maybe it's because with computers now you can make the mouth fit a little bit better, kind of like when they do video games, they can just reanimate the mouth part.
I'm sure that they have the power to do that, but I'm not sure that they do, because it would probably be very expensive when they can just tell the actor to
$10 million.
Well, they definitely didn't have the ability to do it in 1988.
No,
they made one movie and they got the voice actors to like work around.
No, they did the dialogue first, and they drew. Well, oh, sorry, you're talking about for the dub. Right.
Well, that's how they do all animation. Is they do the recording of the actors first, even in North America, and then they animate to the performances, because that's how you get good performances out of your animated characters.
I was reading that some places don't do it, or maybe didn't do it at that time anyway. Like there was the reverse.
Sorry, I mean like Disney, for example, they will always they have always recorded the dialogue first so they can get the most natural sounding performances, and then they animate to that afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was going to make a point, but I'm not sure it's completely valid. Which is that, like, I don't have an issue with animated television shows, particularly anime, when they are dubbed, because those are, they're full of like sort of like matte paintings and then characters having conversations.
Yeah.
And there is action, and obviously there's beautiful animation happening, but this movie, like literally every frame is full of stuff that you can just look at. The opening shot, I was watching it with my partner, and like pans up from some buildings, the buildings get smaller, you see a massive city, the buildings get tinier and tinier and tinier, and like before the explosion even happened, I was like, holy shit, somebody painted that. That probably took them like a week and a half to paint that whole thing.
Later in the movie, towards the end, where things are exploding, and there's just like a stationary shot of like water exploding out this. Oh, it was when the Akira orb is coming out.
Yeah.
It's coming out from the like underneath.
Is it between buildings?
It shows like between buildings, and it shows like water or like steam or something coming out.
Smoke,
every layer was different, and it was all moving independently of one another, and it just held this shot for a solid literally 30 seconds. And I'm not being hyperbolic. 30 seconds is a long time in a movie or a TV show, and I was like, I can't stop looking at this,
especially if you're drawing 24 drawings for 1 second. like
the minuscule movement or like alteration to it. That's crazy.
I had like a similar moment in the movie, Jason, but it wasn't even something as grand. It was like, I don't remember the characters' names, but when the guy with like the weird rabbit teeth is walking and he's talking to the guy, and they're walking on a bridge, and they're walking by all these buildings, and you can see the city moving beyond those buildings, and then as they move past the buildings, you can see the sides of the buildings moving. And I was like, there's like 7 layers here. And then I was like just looking at all of the stuff that was happening, and then I was like, I don't even care what these guys are talking about. And then they start talking about like a cult or whatever, that are like, Akira will come back, and I was like, no, come back to those buildings. I want to see the buildings, man.
Yeah, that I would venture to say that anime as we know it, like televised, like Dragon Ball, Bleach, Naruto, even Berserk, if you've never seen Berserk, go watch Berserk. The original series is like 20 episodes, and then they've made a bunch of more modernized ones with like CGI, and they actually remade it. But the original is always better, in my opinion, for a lot of things.
Classic.
And that one's pretty detailed in that like it's a lot. There's a lot of sword fighting, so you're getting the whole range of motion, but the backgrounds are pretty stationary. And what my point is that the anime, as we know, is usually, like Steve said, a matte painting background with things happening on it. The modes are the only thing that are really animated in a lot of scenes. It's very slow.
It's very cheap. It's very costly.
cheap. Yeah. And movies like this, Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli, they're Disney. Like, they're Disney caliber productions.
$10 million.
I think that this movie, it came out in 1988, which is like, around the time of the renaissance of Disney, when like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and all that stuff started coming out. And I would bet my bottom dollar that they saw this stuff and was like, we have to up our game. We can't just have like a painting of a forest and someone being like, like dancing through it, where they just draw a person dancing through a painting. They're like, we need to like really get crazy. And Kaylin, I wanted to bring it back to what you said earlier, which is when it's animation, you can really you can let your imagination go crazy, and you can do anything that comes into your head. And that is 100% true. And I think that it's only possible in animation. And I don't think that even like an amalgamation of live action and animation can accomplish what strictly animation can do.
Not in a favorable, concise way. No.
Like,
and you'll always see the difference.
It's the reason that like every live action remake of a Disney movie just doesn't have the same impact. And I know that we're adults and like we're gonna watch them and be like, ugh, nothing like the original. I want to see bonjour, 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 bonjour. Like, obviously, I'm gonna like the original Beauty and the Beast more than the remake, but you can do things that you can't do, which is like, you can pan in and then go right up to a person's face, and go away from that person's face, unless you're gonna throw in like a rubbery Emma Watson for a second. Like, you're not gonna be able to accomplish those things. So that's something that I appreciate that you said, because I was going to make that point as well, but you beat me to the punch, brother. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Great minds. Shout out to what you said though about the technical aspect about this. So I read it was 160,000 images. Like the movie is comprised of 160,000 and 327 different colors, which I guess I didn't
know that many colors existed,
right? Because a lot of shades and hues and like with like lighting and stuff like that.
I wonder do you know how many artists worked on it? Because that's something I'd be interested in knowing.
I didn't notate it. I didn't look it up.
No, that's fine. I can look it up later. I just can't imagine.
I am curious to know though, because if it's not a big team, if it's a intimate team, like that must have taken forever. Like you were saying, very tedious. Like just to be able to stay involved and enthusiastic and not go crazy. Like you'd have to take breaks or whatever, right? Like,
yeah. Well, you think about how many Disney movies came out in the 90s, right? And like even beyond
every single year, pretty much.
Yeah.
They recycled a lot of stuff though. If you
they did,
closely,
and they also created technology to make things more streamlined and easier. Yeah. But they also had a huge team of people working at the same time, and they also all worked like ridiculous hours. I remember seeing this like documentary about like Disney animators and how they would work for like a year and a half straight with like no breaks, like every day just drawing. And like Walt Disney is like like smoking a cigarette, like faster.
Yeah, I heard he wasn't the best boss.
But then
are you looking up how many animators there were?
They would give them like a crazy vacation afterwards. Like it was like a week long
Where,
vacation.
At Disneyland?
I don't think it was at Disneyland. They would send them somewhere that wasn't Disney related. But I remember. I can't remember.
I zoned out for a second reading that like some stuff about this movie. It's not really. That's why I was looking away. So my apologies.
It's okay.
I was trying to find out if there was ever a live action
Akira. They talked about it, but it was going to cost $300 million. So they're
still talking about it. It's not done yet.
Did you see who the director was supposed to be at one point? Which really made me excited for a second until I found out what happened.
Is it like James Cameron or
Taika Waititi.
Oh,
So it would be
What
like
happened?
that's an odd choice.
he's doing Love and Thunder, or he did Love and Thunder,
Oh, okay.
the new Thor movie that comes out this year or next year.
That's
Ooh.
weird. I don't know,
I
because
think
he's got such a particular style. It would.
I
mean, I'm not saying he couldn't pull it off. I'm just saying, like, I
There's
wouldn't picture him
comedy
as.
in Akira that I think he would be able to. The whole Kanada's
Then he would
character
cast
being
himself as like
as
that little
Kaneda.
child, like the
That's
child
true.
in the hover chair or whatever.
Shout out to those old ass kids.
That's true. And
Yeah.
do you want to know something crazy that I completely forgot about this movie? I don't know. Neither of you have played the game Earthbound, but the main antagonist, Pokey, in Earthbound, the second Mother game, is directly based off of that kid in that floating chair, because the final boss you fight Pokey in a floating chair like that, and he looks the same. I'll send you guys a picture after the show. If you're
And
watching
I
this,
will send you a picture of Yoda's chair from episode 1 that he sits on in the council chamber, because it looks exactly like that chair. And I was like,
probably
did some
inspired.
concept artist draw that? And George was like, yeah, that's a good looking chair.
Well, we know George Lucas is heavily inspired by
He
Japanese
is.
movies.
Yeah, but I think that he also was of the opinion that anime would never be able to
Him and Spielberg
strike
turned
a
down
chord.
this movie.
Yeah, they both decided, like, we can't make this work, like we can't do it. And
If
like
Spielberg could make it work. If he said he couldn't, like that's
I
saying
think
a
he
lot.
probably, and this is like in the 90s. This isn't like, he didn't say this like last year. He made Ready Player One.
They made Ready
like,
Player One, which is
okay.
the same kind of like
Pretty good. Could have been so
explosion.
much better.
I
I
hate
don't
it
think
was
I would
good.
want Spielberg to make Akira, because I don't know if he would be able to.
I need some gritty. It needs to be gritty.
Yeah, I mean, it does, but I mean, like,
The right amount of
Spielberg can do gritty. Like, he can
Like
do
what?
very, very gritty.
I think
Schindler's
Chris Nolan
List.
could make a good Akira. Chris
Ooh.
Nolan can make gritty
Yeah.
Batman, and he made a pretty good motorcycle sequence in The Dark Knight.
That's true.
I mean, I might even give it to the Wachowskis.
Yeah, Speed
Well,
Racer.
Well, 90s Wachowskis.
Speed Racer is not a great movie,
Why?
but like,
that's kind of what Akira would have to look like, right? All dreamy.
Well,
and
I'd rather
and
it didn't.
colorful.
which is what I'm
That one
saying.
was too shiny.
Have you seen Speed Racer lately though? It's actually really good. Like, I kind of like it a lot.
I can't remember if I watched the whole thing. I know
They lean a little bit too hard into the anime stuff, but like the funky anime stuff, like where they, like, people will jump through the air and there'll be like beams of light going by them, and like that kind of stuff they could probably have pulled back on a little bit. And Akira doesn't really have that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think they'd know how to pull it off appropriately. And like, I mean, the Matrix sequels are more or less like them just going full anime mode. They're like, okay, now we have the budget to just make anime, like live action anime.
The highway scene in Matrix Reloaded is very Akira.
And the fight scene at the end of the third one is basically an anime like a DBZ fight, but like
that definitely reminded me of DBZ when I first saw it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, they're going to make a Dragon Ball Z movie.
Well,
Finally.
I also think that was like a lot of filmmakers like moment where they were like, we can make Superman again. I think, like, we can probably do it now, because it looked a little weird in the Reloaded, and obviously the end of the first one it looked so weird. You're like, ugh, what the?
Yeah,
they did it wrong though. Superman Returns is canonical to the original 4 Christopher Reeves movies, and it's so fucking boring. It's so boring. The only cool part is when the
I have tried to watch that
eye.
movie 3 times and I have fallen asleep every
time. It took me 3 times to get through it too, over many years. The only good part of that movie is when he gets shot in the eye with the bullet and when he like brings the plane down. That's the only.
In the movie's defense, I have always been extremely tired when I put it on, because I'm like, all right, I'll give this a chance again, and then I fall asleep like super quickly.
Speaking of shots you guys like, were there any? Do you have like a handful of key shots from this movie that?
Wow, there's a lot
like
of good ones.
Handful. Give me like 5.
I'll tell you right now that when Tetsuo, when Tetsuo's tripping out, and he's seeing the toys become giant toys, and then they start bleeding milk, and he's like in the milk, and he's and they're like, he's like, oh, it's milk, and then he like kind of like just makes them go away with his mental powers, because he's figuring out that he has these powers. I really enjoy that. I really like that the weird little kid people are like, they're trapped in that room that looks like a giant like play palace. I don't know what.
Yeah, it's
It's just
so weird because
weird
it's
and unsettling.
implied in the movie, right? Like we didn't really do a synopsis of the movie, but it's kind of going to be hard to do.
You
It'll
can't
probably
really do a
take forever.
synopsis of a movie
Yeah.
like this.
That's what I was
Basically,
saying
the story
earlier,
is a street kid gets into a motorcycle accident and he figures out he has crazy powers, and
One
then
second,
the
one
government
second.
is trying.
He already
No.
had the powers. Did
Yes,
the kid
he
unleash
figured
the powers?
out I didn't
Yeah,
say he
that's-
gains
They
them.
gave him
shot.
drugs though. Did they give him drugs that heightened the powers? Like,
Well,
so
here's the
there's-
other thing is that
No,
I think
did
that
you
the
not-
entire city is like taking pills and shit, right? They're called the capsule
They're
gang.
called
I think that the
capsule, yeah.
whole thing is like that people are taking these drugs, and like there's probably a lot more people in Neo Tokyo
Yeah, like
that probably
hey,
have these powers, and it's a result of Akira going supernova, and that they
From
just are,
88.
recreationally taking these, or doctors are giving them to them. And
Gotcha.
like I wouldn't be surprised if they made a sequel to Akira where everybody discovers they have crazy Akira powers, and they've just been taking these drugs for so long.
what about that sequence at the end when he's floating through and he sees the classroom and there's the 4 of them and it's the 3 kids, and then there's one that can't get a hold of his powers. I thought that was supposed to be Tetsuo.
no, those that was 25, 26, 27, 28. That was Kyoko.
Oh, the 3 kids
Uh,
and Akira, and then Akira is just the
Akira.
most powerful one of them all. I
Yeah.
can't wrap my head around where Tetsuo fits into it, but it might just be that he's
Well, that's like the end of the movie again, is like it's cerebral interpretation, how you think. Like you can basically make up your own ending, which is kind of nice, but at the same time, some people are like, "But what? I need answers."
yeah, we spent 4 weeks trying to figure out time loop theories.
Yeah. Let's never do that again.
Oh man, source code. Call back. You guys gotta check out source
Till
code.
next, yeah,
But,
that's
like-
the 2 fucking happy birthday, happy death day movies.
But
Yeah.
I think I do really like that question, Kaylin, because I think it's, as somebody who really enjoys animation a lot, I think it's probably one of my favorite forms of media, her favorite medium. Like I
Mhm.
think I prefer animation over everything, to be honest with you. Like I really, really good animation. Garbage animation kind of
Right.
frustrates me. But then even stuff like Rick and Morty, where in later seasons, like they still have their like janky drawings for their main characters and even like their tertiary characters, but like the stuff they're doing around them is so animated so beautifully. Like when they're in their ship and they're like in an escape scene, and like Rick is blowing up other ships and they're crashing into buildings and the explosions look so great, and you're like, they've taken this like janky ass cartoon and turned it into something beautiful.
South Park's another example of that, where over the years they've used
Yes.
the same key images, but now it's like it looks like they're almost 3D in their world, and they look
I think
like
that South Park is one of those ones that, like Rick and Morty, they like improved upon their animation style, and they didn't really allow time to make them lazy or like get them into a point where they're like, well, it's cheaper if we do this.
Yeah.
Because I think that those 2 guys are like, I don't give a shit if it's cheaper. Like we make so much money,
and we just
we
want
should
to
be
make
spending more on it to make it.
we
look
just
even
want to
better.
make our jokes.
What up, Steve?
Cutting down both sides of the argument. Like that's been South Park's thing. They do have an absurd twist, but it's really taking a political thing and cutting down both sides of the argument. And that's
Right.
That's an important piece of like, propagandized medium. Like you want to be able to show both sides of an argument and make them
I
both
think
look
that
absurd to really keep bias out of it, in my opinion.
The Simpsons on the other side of that, not what you're saying, Jason, but in terms of animation, like they got to a point where their animation was so good, and then it just kind of, they figured out like, oh, Family Guy is doing it this way, we'll do it that way as well because it's cheaper. And then they just like stuck with that. And I'm not sure if they went back to the hand-drawn style that they had in the 90s, but like in the 90s, The Simpsons was animated like to the level of almost like a Disney movie at points. Like some of the episodes were so beautifully animated. And then it just got boring. Like the visuals were not keeping up with the humor.
Well, the humor also kind of goes away over time too. It becomes very homogenized, and the last 10 seasons have been more about the celebrity guests. And Homer has about 4 different storylines. Bart has about 4 different storylines. What's Lisa?
Does he even work at the power plant anymore?
I think that at one point they made a joke about like, here's all the jobs I've ever had, and it went on for like 10 minutes. And Lisa's into the new fad of the week and meets a celebrity, and that's basically every week now. And meanwhile, Family Guy was really cutting edge because they would take these absurd jokes and try to push the envelope. But once the envelope has been completely blasted open and there's no envelope left to even push, it's like, hey, remember the time I was a piece of ham on a sandwich? Cut to Peter, I'm a piece of ham on a sandwich.
I remember that. I remember that joke. Sorry, Jason. I don't mean to try and push us back to the other topic. I think the point was like specifically animation, like the animation in like. Okay, sorry.
This is going to happen
brain
a
got
lot this month because we didn't say it at the top of the show, but it is animation for oldies.
It's animation month. Yeah, that's so.
Do we have a name?
Let's talk about the animation.
That's what it says in the spreadsheet. Animation for oldies.
Animation for oldies, which basically my thought process was like animation that older people enjoy. Like one thing that I was very.
You have titles for the summer though.
Yeah, I do, but like that's because we haven't chosen movies for those yet. But I'm like, these are.
But do we have to match up those titles? I mean,
no, we can change anything. Everything's malleable, man. But anyway, like basically what I was saying, South Park has improved their animation, and they've never kind of like faltered and gone backwards. The Simpsons got to a point where their animation was amazing. The Max Power episode, or the episode where Hank Scorpio is like burning people with a flamethrower. Yeah. And then it got to a point where they just went backwards to Family Guy. Family Guy even like got to a point where they were like, okay, let's spend a lot of time animating these fight scenes, like the chicken fights and stuff like that. Got pretty impressive, but like, you know, they wouldn't blow the budget on that kind of stuff. A lot of Family Guy jokes are like two people walking into a room and talking to each other for a second, and then maybe one guy hits the other guy over the head and they fall over and they're dead or some bullshit like that. Whatever. But Akira is like, you know, one of the, I think, like formative examples of 90s animation and how it influenced a bunch of stuff that influenced me specifically.
Nice.
You guys are familiar with the Batman animated series, I am assuming.
Robin does the same thing.
I'm Batman.
I just feel
there are several examples of different Batman episodes, as well as the movie The Mask of the Phantasm, which I really wanted to pitch for this month, but we filled it up too quickly, and I'm like, I guess we'll do that maybe next time. But
it's
one of my favorite. It's not really an adult movie. I saw that in theaters when I was like 7.
I did too, but if you watch it again and you're like, this is maybe not a kid's movie. There's a lot of like,
the Joker's pretty messed up in that one. I watched it in 2020.
There's like corpses and stuff, and like there's a point where like a guy spins around in a chair and he's like fully a corpse that's been like dead for a few days, and he's got like a TNT in his chest, and he's like, like, and people get shot and die, and like the Phantasm like pushes a tombstone on a guy and kills him. Anyway, good movie, but there is an extended fight scene in that movie that takes place around motorcycles and motorcycle gangs, and it's like before Batman is like super Batman. And it's when I was that beginning sequence of the motorcycle gang, the clown gang versus the capsule gang, I was like, whoa, this is so much like Mask of the Phantasm. And then I, immediately pulled up my phone and I was like, okay, it makes sense. They literally cite this movie as a source of inspiration for how they could up the game, because the animated series had been on for a few years at that point, and they wanted to use traditional animation techniques that they used for like the Looney Tunes and stuff, but mash that together with anime,
and
the anime
up,
of the
man.
80s. Yeah.
The 90s Batman the animated series, it's good. It's a good show about Batman, and it doesn't, I feel like the Spider-Man 90s show is like that too. And the X-Men 97 is like that as well. I'm excited for the new X-Men 97 reboot on Disney. They're just going to continue that show. That's crazy to me that they can do stuff like that.
It's pretty cool, yeah. I'm very excited to see what they do with that. But
I'm playing. I'm just one more thing before we move on. I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 right now,
Oh,
and
man.
I have
You're just in Neo Tokyo.
You're in Neo
I'm cur-
Tokyo, basically. I have the leather jacket, the red leather
Red?
jacket, and I just bought the fucking motorcycle. There's a
Nice.
version. It's got different. It's a little bit different. It's not as
Different
awesome
decals?
looking, but yeah, it's different. Got different decals, but it's the bike, and it's got to be. I think it even has a similar name. But I'm just rolling around this like I feel like this movie was it was perfect timing to watch
Cherry
this
picked.
film because I'm playing this game where I'm just in basically Akira. It's a little bit
Yeah.
different. It feels a little bit more like if modern day was Cyberpunk, but it's good shit.
Speaking of cherry picking,
Oh, sorry, Kaylin, before you go on, we
Yeah.
didn't Jason, you said your one shot, your good shot. I would like to say at least one. Like
we did skip. Yeah, sorry. What was Jason's one shot? Oh yeah, the light, the light and the smoke, right?
Yeah,
no, his was
it was the water.
when he's like the teddy bears and rabbits are coming to life.
Oh, we
Right,
didn't.
okay.
That's how we got into this whole conversation. I just wanted to mention.
Yeah,
the
we
other
fell
thing
into a bit of a rabbit hole, if you
Yeah,
will.
the
A
other one that
rabbit
I
hole
wanted to
covered in
mention
milk. Yeah.
was just that when Tetsuo first like realizes his powers and he's walking down the hallway, just wrecking everybody.
God, yeah.
Because also they redo that scene. That's the like closest to
Kanye
live
West?
action we've ever seen for Akira in the Kanye West Harder, Stronger video.
Isn't there a scene like that in The Boys, or is it The Boys, where they're in like a hospital and there's like hospitals for supers or soups or whatever they call them?
Yeah,
somebody
where they-
blows somebody up in
Kind
the
of had
hallway.
a
It's
scene
similar.
in his phenomenal video, sort of.
yeah.
Man,
Oh,
Carl Urban knows how to like really line himself up into like amazing live action versions of things. Like
Carl Urban
you guys have
rules.
seen Dread, right? Dread, the movie
Yeah,
Dread.
it's a great
Like-
adaptation.
The second Judge Dredd movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
the good Dread movie.
The one that's not about the
Yeah.
three shells.
The one where he
that's
never takes
Demolition
his helmet
Man.
off, where he just
Oh.
like has a sour puss the whole time, and he's like,
I always get Demolition Man and Dread. Okay, so Dread is the one with Taco Bell everywhere.
no, that's
Also, Demolition
that's,
Man.
That's Demolition Man as well. Yeah,
Fuck.
Dread
That's
is the one
where
with
he's
Carl
like, I'm the
Urban.
judge, the jury, and the executioner.
I will judge a dread executioner.
Yeah, that one.
I'm Judge Judy and executioner.
Bad movie.
Some of your favorite shots.
Dread. Okay, yeah. I was gonna talk about Dread
Dread's
for
the
some
one
reason.
where Rob Schneider is on the back of his
That's
motorcycle.
Demolition Man.
Yeah, that's the one where Rob Schneider keeps saying, "Oh
Now
my
he's
God,
just
murder,
fucking
death,
with
kill." Yeah. Dread is the one where they have sex through virtual reality, right?
It's the one with Sandra Bullock in the rock suit.
Okay.
That's the net.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes, blonde hair. He gets fined for cursing all the time.
That's Double Take.
It's the one
That's
where
double
John
jeopardy.
Travolta and
Ah, damn it. Shit, you're right. Fuck.
it's the one where John Travolta and Nicolas Cage face off and swap faces.
Yes, you're right. You know what? We'll put this to rest. Jason, you win. You win the game of name that movie. But Dread is a very good movie. If you haven't seen it, it's super duper good.
Yeah. It's basically like what's that movie where he attacks the block?
Then Attack the Block.
Or no, the Raid. Isn't the Raid
The Raid,
really
yeah, it's the
similar
Raid.
to
Yes,
The
it's the Raid,
Raid.
except he's inside of a building that's like the size of a city.
he's in an
which is
apartment
insane.
building that's the size of a city, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all shot in Toronto.
Yep.
Which is
I
cool.
know I had a person, I worked with a person that was one of the security. No, he was in Total Recall.
We also
Total
both-
New
Recall
one or the
Jason.
good one?
We both worked with somebody who did an Akira photo shoot not too long ago. Lavina, remember Lavina?
Lavina? Yeah.
Yeah.
She,
An
her whole
Akira photo
Instagram-
shoot?
They did a clothing line for Akira. I think it was about 4 years ago or something. And they flew her to Japan and they got her to model all these clothes that were Akira themed, and it was very, very cool.
Speaking of clothing, did you guys? Okay, actually, two things.
Lavina's
Yeah.
also in
One-
Shazam. So.
Yeah, and
Fuck you,
also in The
Jason.
Boys. Remember when Lavina just showed
Oh
up?
yeah, she showed up as like an actual like with lines.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kaneda's pink shirt, did it look awkwardly short to you guys
His pink shirt. When did he have a pink shirt on?
when he was
when
at
he's
school?
at school. Actually, that scene is funny because
It was
just
the 80s
today,
though.
but just today,
Yeah, but it's like short, like it's not short, it's not a crop top. It's just like a weird,
It's
awkward, like
cyberpunk.
wide, short. Okay,
it's cyberpunk, and I'll tell you
we
why.
also-
What about the
like-
ankles? Remember the last year or two, everyone was wearing pants where you see ankles.
Yeah.
That's been happening for
awful.
like 8 to 10 years, Caleb.
Well, listen.
Maybe
I was
people
walking-
just started doing that in Nova Scotia, but
We
It's been
are
happening
like
for a
5
while.
years behind most things.
It's true. I was walking down the street in Night City in Cyberpunk, and I was like, do you think anybody in this city just puts on like a pair of slacks? You know? Do you think anybody in this city just like doesn't have
No.
any like weird tech on their face?
yeah, but slacks
just
in
has, like, a
Cyber
nice
City
shirt.
are like all the seams are glowing neon
Yeah.
thread.
So the reason I bring it up is because when I was watching Akira later, I was watching it going, yeah, it's the same thing. And this fucking everybody's dressed like a maniac. Everybody has weird symbols on their shirts and their clothes are all fit weird. And then he actually just had the most normal ass fucking clothes on. I know his shirt was a little short, but like he just
I
had-
actually had a thing to say in direct response that isn't like a joke to that, Kalen, which is like, I think that that's
I
also
wasn't joking.
no, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to. Sorry, Jason. I wasn't cutting you off because I thought you were joking.
actually I have something to
I
say
was
that's
just cutting
not a
you off.
joke, Jason.
So I'm just gonna tell Jason to stop joking around and let me do my bit. All right. So the reason he's got a short shirt is wacky, wacky, wacky. Here we go.
No, the reason I think that he's wearing clothes that are too small for him is because they live in a world where they
Poverty.
literally have nothing. Like they have absolutely nothing.
That's a
And
good
like
call. I
all
like
they
that.
have is each other, really. Like they have their gang. And even when they like go down, they all go to the police station, they send them back to school, and their school doesn't like discipline them and get them to go back to class. A guy just like beats the shit out of them and sends it. Like one guy is like
Discipline!
bleeding.
Discipline!
Like, yeah.
Discipline!
And I think that one thing that like this movie really succeeds upon is world building without actually explaining anything to you. It says like after the events of World War III, this is what the world is like now. And like
Yeah.
they don't really go into any detail beyond that, except for like you see the occasional news broadcast saying like the student protests are out of control, and then it just shows them protesting, and then like these gangs just start fighting, and you're getting all the information through what's happening on screen, and you never actually have to have
Show,
somebody
not
sit
tell.
down and tell you. And then even the
Yeah.
stuff where it is telling you, it's intriguing and confusing, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? When they're like,
Mhm.
the council says this, and we have to have another council meeting about this, and the guy's like, well, I don't think that we need to do that. And
Well,
you're like,
I
what the
think
fuck are
like
they
a
talking
soldier.
about?
They'll just use a couple of
Act or
words
don't
to
act.
explain stuff that movies sometimes spend way too much hammering down. Like they just call the cops Gestapo at one point. They call the freedom fighters, and they call them terrorists. You know,
Yeah.
like that's the kind of world building I like. The little political conversations don't go on for too long. There's really only 2 or 3 real. It's just following the president around from the council meeting to him walking with his number 2, and then to his kind of his ending where he's trying to escape with all the money, and then his number 2 was like, what are you doing? Like we got to go out there and like do the right thing. And he's like, fuck you, and he shoots him. And then that's another scene I really loved, where the money's flying all over the place. The money and bonds are flying all over the place, and he's like lumbering through it, about to die. And the fucking the president's trying to get his pills out, and he fucking gets the pills, and they go everywhere, and he has a heart attack. And then the guy
No,
keeps
he
lumbering.
eats too many of them. He eats like the whole bottle. His mouth is
Oh.
full of pills. He like overdoses on his heart medication. It's
Well,
crazy.
but still, the number 2 guy.
No,
like,
he didn't swallow them. They're still in his mouth.
he lumbers over. That's how I interpret it. He lumbers over, and he just falls down to one knee while chaos it kind of comes out, and then chaos is happening because the whole city's like they're either watching it go down because they're,
It's very good storytelling,
jaded.
man. Like they don't have to say stuff. It's just like visual, and like that's it. Where it's like I can only imagine like the storyboarding process where they sat down and they're like, how do we tell this tale without like having to say
It's
too
a
much?
film versus a movie.
Well, that's true. They did have the storyboards.
Lots of
already.
explosions and car chases.
Lots of explosions and car chases. They did have the storyboards though. It's a manga, right? So
Right. True.
Yeah.
they just
yes.
took key scenes and just filled them in basically.
That's like always has been my argument since I was a kid when they do like an interpretation of something that's based on a comic book, especially a comic book, where I'm like, they literally already have the storyboards for good stories. Like,
That's
why
why I
don't they
hate the
just
live
take these?
action Death Note. How do you take a perfect story and just fucking make it a gory?
I thought
Like,
the movie was okay, but I've never seen
watch the anime. It's leaps and bounds until it isn't. It gets bad, but the first season is awesome, and then it doesn't, and then it's not.
I read Death Note. Actually, I have it right here. Let's see. Do I? Yeah, I do.
I want to make a live
I've got
action
the Black
Dragon Ball
Page
movie.
edition.
Oh, what? That
It was
looks
actually a gift that was given to me by the Japanese team of the escape games that I used to work at. They gave it to me as a
Wicked.
gift. Yeah. Very cool. Death Note. Not
What
as good
was
as
the
Akira.
what was the scene that you liked?
What was a shot that I liked? You mean, right?
Yeah.
Like an animated
Shot.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think my favorite one is when the tank guy shoots the first shot at Tetsuo, and he puts his hand up and it stops the entire like the warhead part of the cannon, and then like he stops it, and there's like this force around him, like it's just air,
Right.
and then catching up to him is like the smoke trail that wouldn't have caught up to the actual warhead part because it would have blown up and then caught up, and that catches up to it, and then it blows up. And I'm like, oh man,
That,
that's
like,
such like a
blows up
good little like
around him,
detail where
too.
I'm like, that's so cool. Yeah,
I love
the
that
explosion
force field.
afterwards is cool
Yeah.
as well, but like it's just like the
That-
slowing down of it and then the trail catching up to it, because it moved so quickly and then stopped, and then that trail didn't even have a second to catch, and then it like had a moment to catch up, which is like super beautiful. I think all the moments where Kaneda is like using the laser gun on the bike, obviously all those are really, really good looking. But one part that I really felt viscerally affected by was when the guy who kidnaps I can't remember what his name is, when he gets shot to death.
Takashi.
Yeah, when he gets shot to death, I was like, now I remember why this movie disturbed me as a kid, because he's just like getting blown away, like the guy, what's his name in RoboCop, but it's like,
Or The Godfather. They massacred
Yeah.
my boy.
but like they make it so that every bullet has like this grand impact and like rips away cloth and flesh
And reaction,
creates
yeah.
these spurts of blood, and it's
Very 80s
It's-
action movie.
it is, but
But it's animated, so it's not just like squibs. It's somebody painstakingly drew those
drawing
like,
it,
bullet
and painting it, like they
holes.
draw
Yeah.
it and then they paint the color in afterwards, and the color and the lines have to match up, man. You can't just slap some color on
What have you
and
been
it's done.
slamming fucking 7 drawings today?
Yeah, I did 7 drawings, and I can't imagine having to do, what was it, 160,000 you said? That's
You're almost there.
fucked
Just
up.
a few more.
You're almost there, yeah.
You almost have done Akira today.
I'm trying to think of one more, and it's like there's too many, man. There's too many good
Oh,
ones.
the shot near the beginning, that's the iconic shot of him sliding on the bike. That's
Mhm.
always in all the
Yeah.
production material.
Or,
I
like,
love that.
Yeah.
It's very
Oh, I know what mine is. I know
it's
what it
very
is.
anime. You know how in anime is like a protagonist will get hit and they'll fly back and then slide. It's almost a motorcycle version of that.
Mine's the last one I have is a
Right,
twofer, which is like when he sits in like the throne in the stadium, and his hand
is like
turns into like it like grows into the armrest, and it's so intricate. Like there's so many little things going on in there, and then when he gets up and pulls it away, which is like a couple of
They all
minutes
perfectly
later,
come out of all the holes they've gone through.
but it also pulls off some bits of concrete and shit with it, and it's like,
That's a great
Man.
story beat too, because that's when you realize that he's not in control of the shit inside of him anymore.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Oh no.
Sorry.
I hope the whole Instagram doesn't go down.
Did someone do something?
No.
I didn't.
Okay.
I'm still live to air, buddy.
Sorry, viewers, but apparently I need to tell Instagram which of these pictures have a boat. Oh no, is that what's the back part of the boat called?
Stern.
Uh,
You're getting a capture right now? What the fuck? Anyway, this
Is the
podcast.
shit pause?
Oh no. You ended the live.
I didn't
live.
end it.
what happened?
The message came up. No one tried to log in, right?
No, we're sitting here talking.
Well, what you can do, Kaylin, is just put it up. You don't have to put a message, just put a picture on it and put it up.
Yeah.
Right quick. We can cut this out of the later version of and then just go live again, and we'll just have two parts on the Instagram page. It's fine. As long as we just, this version is now the important version. So I'm still
I did
live
see
on-
like a weird thing pop up as well that had like two pictures or something, but like I don't know what it was.
We'll send you via blah blah blah.
I got 71 likes so far on TikTok for this. So
71. Wow.
For this, you're TikToking
somebody
right
sent me
now?
a gift, actually.
Ooh.
Do you know them?
Nope.
Do I want to give this my phone number?
No.
Okay.
Just get the live going again.
Get the freaking did you put a picture on the live?
Did they ever make any kind of sequel to this at all?
Fuck is
No.
this stupid ass fuck.
No,
I remember
there's-
there was a
I'm
ghost in the
sorry, everyone.
It's okay. I remember there was a ghost in the shell, like
There's a sequel because it
subsequent-
ends in a cliffhanger, and they made a sequel like probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, but I mean that like they made a Ghost in the Shell thing. I don't know what it was because I started watching it and I was like, this is bad.
There's
But
a TV show, yeah, that I think.
But they made it look like the poster for it looked like it was an Akira sequel. Like the person was wearing red and had a red motorcycle, and I was like, is this Akira? And I put it on and was like, this is not Akira. What the fuck is this?
Hey, Jason, do you want to text me the login info for?
You got booted completely?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
The fuck, bro?
We want to do a live still on it, right? Or no?
Yeah, we're not done.
Yeah.
Did you?
Well,
were you
we'll have
able-
this. Like, do you want to just edit this and make and like just get the highlight bits and put it on to Insta?
I think it's still good to have both.
Okay.
Yeah, were you able to add a picture to the?
I haven't done it. We're recording and then all of it out of nowhere it just like it logged me out or something. And now it wants me to log in again. If you can just text me the password. So that unless you want to tell me it, but this is recording. I don't know if you care or whatever.
This will be edited out.
So you remember, I mean, obviously last time something not similar, but that you said you can like find the archived footage or whatever.
Yeah.
It will probably still let you add a picture to it.
It wants me to confirm my phone number.
Really?
So it'll probably
yeah.
send it to one of you guys. Yeah.
Should I confirm my phone number?
Something happened to the account where, because the three of us are logging into it, it's like continuously trying to get us to confirm. Ugh. I just need to get 1,000 followers on TikTok.
890-188 890-188 890-188
890-188.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. And fuck you, Instagram. Fuck you, Mark. We can edit this out.
Maybe post first because it might fuck up the archive or whatever.
I'm just checking the archive now. And it's not loading for some reason.
There's still a couple of things I want to talk about, but
Yeah, same. Why is this being a piece of shit?
Did you see 21? All one word.
No, I'm back in it now. I think
Oh.
I'm gonna try and live.
It saves all of your live recordings. TikTok
Yeah.
does the same thing, so it should be fine.
right.
If you guys want to keep an eye open and then invite or request or whatever. Oh, hello. It's part 2. Actually, this is actually a great time for part 2 because this is a 2-hour movie. And hey,
Intermission.
exactly. The words coming out of my mouth. Welcome everyone. We're going to continue talking, even though sometimes technology does stuff that you're not expecting it to do, and then it does.
And then it does. Here, I'm gonna start. Whoops! I'm gonna clap for the Zoom, so we have a point to edit.
Okay. What? Hey, do either of you have one of those boards?
No, people just clap now, unless
People
it's like
just
a real
clap
movie.
now. But what about?
I mean, they call it a clapper, so they realize that, like, wait a minute.
On podcasts, it's always
Yeah. For movies, because they do
Also-
a million takes, you
does it
have
also
to
like
write
sync
the
the
takes.
mic? I'm not 100% sure what the just clapping on a podcast is for.
Yeah, it'll help you sync up audio.
Maybe it's a placebo.
A lot of like, if you're doing video and audio, and then you're doing, like, if we were all recording our audio differently, you could sync up the clap together, and then it would sync all your audio
Nice.
together.
You just filled in a hilarious question I've had for many years about why they clap on podcasts specifically. I get why they do it in movies, because it's like, this is the start of the scene and that's for editing.
It has
Yeah.
info.
Well, we're
And
back.
we're
I'm glad I helped. Hello, welcome back, everybody. Part 2 of Akira.
I'm gonna
Review.
put pictures. What were we talking about? I'm so we were going well, I feel.
We were talking about
shots. I know that
Shots.
was one of the things we were talking about anyway.
Well, I mean, one thing that I think this movie does extremely well is sense of scale. Something that is difficult to accomplish, but the more and more we go into the future, scale is becoming like easier and easier to sort of like fake, and a lot of movies use it to give a grand sense of like, you can take like found footage movies, for example, and you can add something like looming in the distance, and you can like make it deep into shadow or covered by fog, and put something in the foreground to give you perspective. But like, you think back to movies from the 60s or 50s, like giant ants attacking the city, or like Attack of the 50-Foot Woman or whatever.
Just forced perspective of a fucking either a real ant or hilariously claymation ant. I always like the 1950s ant movies because they just use forced perspective of an actual ant.
I really like the ones that. Have you guys ever seen the 1980s Blob movie?
I've seen bits and pieces. That's a movie I do want to go watch because I feel like I'm going to love the Blob because it's kind of tongue in cheek, right?
Put it on the list.
It is, but the remake is also just like really good. Also, I think Frank Darabont made it, which is, my month is riddled with Darabont's.
Oh,
he does
there's
a lot
also,
of
you know what I'm thinking
Stephen
of
King.
though? I'm thinking of the parody of the Blob called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which was
oh, they're gonna say the boob.
It's got the dude that played Gomez in the live action TV show.
So before this podcast, me and my friends used to just watch shitty movies for fun. Like we would like specifically. That was the movie. The
Would you guys
movie.
crack wise?
And you wouldn't even
course.
podcast it, then what is even the point?
I don't know. We were just having fun, cracking wise. You're right. But we watched the original Blob, we watched the Son of the Blob, and then we watched the Blob remake. And the Blob remake, the 1980s movie, is actually like real good. Like it's actually a good movie.
I like that the 80s Blob has like bits of bone in it floating around it and stuff.
Yeah, and they make it like a gross, weird color. Like it almost at points looks like chicken meat and like bubble gum. It's really gross, but also very good. It's got enough camp that you're not overloaded with camp, but you're also appreciative of like the tongue-in-cheek humor, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, it's one of those ones that does not successfully accomplish scale in the way that you would like it to. There are moments where it does, but I feel like this movie, like particularly when the satellite, the Soul satellite, is shooting the lasers down, you really get a good taste of like how big Neo Tokyo is, and how much destruction is being done. And even at the beginning of the movie, like when they're on the highway fighting on the motorcycles and stuff, you just kind of like the layers upon layers of city, and like going upwards to the point that you can't even see the sky. It's just like these skyscrapers are everywhere.
You mentioned the satellite. I guess this was one of the first few movies to kind of represent the vacuum of space, like the silence of it.
Oh yeah,
appropriately. I was
yeah.
like, that's an interesting thing to put in this, considering a lot of even like, Alien. I think they have sound, and Star Wars definitely. Yeah. You can hear the whole spaceship going, like, come on.
But that's another thing in this movie that was really interesting, is that they're super sparing with music. There are large.
Oh, that's what I meant to do. I meant to start. Damn it. Never mind. Sorry. I was gonna play the theme song, like the little. Anyway.
La, 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 la.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is they're super sparing with music, but when they do eventually introduce it, it's very, very effective as well. And it's particularly effective because you don't get a ton of the music right at the beginning, but when that clown bike attack starts, it kind of like trickles in, and it gives you a taste of what the score is. And then that same sort of score comes in different ways throughout the movie, and it's always the same sort of thing. One thing that I know from a lot of anime, like like Gundam, and
Gundam's cool.
The ones that are like
quick movie title shout out, 22 minutes, 15 seconds.
But this is also the movie that they've said the name of the movie in it the most, probably, of any movie we've done in 37 episodes. Also, before I forget to do this,
hit us.
I did keep track of how many times he yells Tetsuo, and it's
only yells, or what about
only yells it in the sense of the meme of the like Tetsuo. Okay. And he says it more. He says it more times. He says it about, say, 24 or 25 times, but he yells it in that particular cadence 18 times.
Nice.
That's some useless information you can take to your grave, everyone.
I'll take it there. I'll take it there, and I'll bury it with me, because I plan on burying myself.
Wait.
18.
Wait a second.
I'll add that to the thing.
I don't know what that means.
I was using my phone to try and find my phone, but I couldn't find it.
One thing that's interesting about the score of this movie, not to go back to the score.
No, let's go back. Yo, great album by the Fugees.
It's a hard score to digest like on its own. Like it's not something that you are going to toss on to relax to, or even to study to, or to like even working out to. Would be weird.
There's only one real song in this movie, and it's just like at the very beginning when they're listening to just sort of like, it's just like nondescript music playing from the jukebox. And that's the only time there's music that's like music you could close. The rest of like it is
not score. I
don't even think there's a real like this movie isn't really scored.
I'll play it right now. I got it queued up.
It's almost like Hans Zimmer where it's kind of just like a
Yeah,
extended sound.
That's why I think it's very appropriate, because it like ramps tension in a way that the silence of like all of this shit happening, and then all of a sudden, like once the score comes in, you're like, oh, something's about to happen.
I'll tell you right now,
I know something's gonna happen.
When they do a live action Akira movie, Kavinsky and other new retro wave artists are going to be all over it.
Yeah, they're gonna get probably some Nine Inch Nails and some
Daft Punk
Radiohead
will come back
alumni.
to do a song. Yeah,
Ooh.
Daft Punk will come back to do a song for it.
Daft Punk, that'd be dope. That would be dope if that happened.
Daft Punk, Kavinsky, what are they called? Overdrive.
Yeah, Overdrive is good. I hope only for like the cityscape music stuff, like just to like appropriately, like in Tron Legacy, where Daft Punk did the score, like they like literally wrote the score, but they also wrote like some Daft Punk style songs as well to be in there.
I never saw the movie, but I've listened to the soundtrack because I'm a fan of Daft Punk.
You know what? It's not that bad.
It's not
that bad.
It's worth a watch. It's worth a watch.
It's probably fine. I love Tron's Deadly Discs as a kid. For the Atari.
I mean,
the original movie.
Also, the original Tron is like, I didn't even like that shit as a kid.
I loved it. That's another.
I thought it was Pong. Is it not Pong?
I thought it was
no. It's Deadly
Discs. This movie was made after
Aren't the discs Pong? Isn't that Pong?
No, it's like it's a game they play. It's kind of like Pong, but it's mostly about the light bike shit, where it's like Snake.
That's like the Snake game or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Oh, what was that? What was the movie we watched where you called him? Oh, the Mouth of Madness. Where you're like, these fucking D-list actors. The guy who's like the guy who comes in. He's like, well, I'll come back on Monday to see him again or whatever. That's like the main bad guy in Tron. It's like, I am the bad guy of Tron.
That's a Disney movie from the 80s. That's another movie my dad showed me. That's kind of a contrast.
They really tried to
Disney
Pirates
has
of the
some weird
Caribbean
things in their bag.
That movie. They were like, let's take what we did it with Pirates. We got a good $1 billion off of Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's do it with Tron. And then they tried, and they're like, nobody seems to like this.
Yeah, nobody likes neon anymore.
Yeah,
nobody likes blinding neon.
I liked it though, man. I saw it and I was like, that was cool as fuck.
I need to watch both of them. I tried to do a thing where I watched Blade Runner, and then I was going to watch Blade Runner 2049 immediately after, and I didn't.
Do it.
But I'm just but it does mean I can just watch Blade Runner 2049.
I do love Blade Runner, but it is
that movie's a slog, dude.
I've seen it a million times, and like I put it on to go to bed now sometimes when I can't sleep. I'm like, like Harrison Ford,
Lord of the Rings for me.
I need to figure out if you're a robot or not.
It has some real slow, like some real quiet, slow moments.
Well, everybody looks like the whole city is night all the time, and it's like everybody seems like they're about to go to bed. That's why you're like, there's never any bright lights, so you're just kind of like lying there. Everybody's whispering,
kind of talking, and it's like an echo, like they're talking. It's always like sounds like they're talking in the distance or in the other side of a room. Every shot sounds like they're talking at the other side of a room. So it's very like, it's a good movie to go to sleep to.
I have like the every version Blu-ray where it comes with like 10 discs, and there's like different versions of the movie, and like one of them is like the theatrical cut where it's like Harrison Ford has a like a noir detective narration throughout the whole movie, and it is like the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. It's bad. Don't watch it. I would recommend never watching it.
I kind of want to.
No. What were you gonna say, Kaylin? You had your hand up.
Yeah,
for a
sorry,
long
you had your
time,
hand
buddy.
up. Yeah.
When they detain the kids, so when 26 escapes and the cat runs into Tetsuo, and then there's an explosion or whatever, and I think that unlocks his powers within or whatever, and then the kids get detained, and then the Kaneda is telling the guy like, hey, hey pops, or hey old man, or something like that, we got our friend, and it's like, I'm only 25. He didn't look 25 to me. Like, I mean, I'm not really.
Yeah, they could have drawn him younger,
right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's like a weird gag where he calls a guy pop, but he's like, I'm not that old. I'm only 25.
I'm not even married.
Who's
I'm not
old?
even married.
He's like a detention, not a detention officer, but like I'm not even sure. Like, see, that's the thing. There's aspects of this movie that I still don't even fully have my head wrapped around.
He the guy that was like laying into them?
No, he was like one of the people that was holding them overnight, and then when they,
I think it was
one of those
cops. I
police
think it was
officer
at the
guys.
cop
Yeah, the
station, yeah.
Gestapo or whatever.
you know, he like combs his hair to look
No,
nice.
I
or
remember.
whatever.
I remember this scene
Yeah.
now because
Yeah.
it's the scene where the guy. That scene is fuck. You know how I talk about how I love pure chaos in these movies, man. That moment where they're all in there and they're all moving independently, right? Because it's all animated independently, and
Which is
then
awesome.
he's just ripping into the Gestapo dude. He's just calling them names and ripping on him, and then there's like, he's like, "Fine, you guys just go." And then the guy runs out with the grenade, and the grenade doesn't go off. And then he's also like, he points at Kay and he's like, I want to take Kay with me. That whole sequence is a really good, like, there's just so much happening that you can't get bored.
Yeah.
I don't think that Kay had enough of a character, to be honest, though.
I
There
think that they
coulda-
could have,
Yeah.
the big reveal that she had Akira powers could have been more intertwined in the movie because she just is like,
What power? She didn't have power. What powers?
she absolutely has powers.
No.
It seemed like they were
what's-her-face was
operating
taking her
through
over.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Fucking she was controlling her body and telling her what to say, or like making her say what she wanted to say.
I thought that when he what? Did I
Okay,
completely
tell us
miss
when you think she had powers.
So when it's just her and it's and Tetsuo, and she like throws
On the bike?
No, they're like in the sewers or wherever, and
In the sewer?
she does this and throws one of those pipes at Tetsuo, and he throws it off and comes out. And he's like, "Oh, I see you've got a piece of this too," or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I think that
It
she's
seemed
hiding her
to
powers.
me,
And then at the end when they have that flash, the fourth person, I also thought might have been her, because she's like, well, if the three of us go in there, then we'll never come back. But as long as we save the day, but that might have been like the four of them had to get back together to stop the Akira. And that's what Steve was saying. Like, you can kind of interpret things in this movie as any way you want to.
Yeah.
I was sure that Kay has powers.
Okay.
it always seemed to me throughout the movie that the children were operating through her, like using her as a conduit, which does not necessarily mean that she does not have powers. It just means that she has a different type of power, which allows them to use her as like an avatar for their abilities. Which again, like that's still a power, because like they couldn't do that to everybody. If they could, they would have been doing that the whole time, right? They would have taken over the general and like actually during any fight. The colonel.
Was that a Buster Keaton callback?
Nope.
Yeah. We will never call back to that.
If we ever have like a lot of fans, I don't know if that's going to be our greatest episode or we're going to have to delete it from existence.
Yeah.
What, Buster?
No,
whatever
what
happened
we'll do
to episode?
is we'll do an English dub of it.
We should make
Kalen
it.
could go back and do all his lines again. And he'll be like, well, what I meant to say was.
We'll do a commentary
That's actually
track.
hilarious. We do a commentary. We should have it playing, but then just but all three of us dub over it.
Yeah, it'll be like,
do like a mystery science theater.
I was trying to make this point, but Kalen would stop saying guys.
He stopped saying words for a while.
Yeah.
It's my birthday. Yeah, I was trying to make a point, man. Yeah, it's my birthday.
That's beyond the point. The point is that it's my birthday.
We could make it an Easter egg episode where they have to like go through a series of actions to find it.
We'll put it at the highest on our Patreon that we make eventually. We'll put it at the highest tier. If you give us $50,000, you can watch this fucking nightmare episode that made James almost quit the show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You have to include your red sweater, Kalen.
That
package. Yeah, you got to send it to whoever pays us so they can wear it like a cape. Nice. I don't have too much more to say. I mostly want to talk about the soundtrack and the sense of scale, but yeah, I don't know. Like, it's it is. I'm not the first person to say this, but I think it is like literally one of the few movies that I'm like, this shit is perfect. It's like a masterpiece.
Pioneered
basically.
the right. I'm not sure if pioneered is the word I'm looking for or a different word. It paved the way.
Yeah, it's like a trailblazer, but pioneered like territory for sure.
Yeah, that's you had the meaning correct for that because it pioneered anime in the West for sure. If there was no
Yeah,
Akira,
it also
Akira's the first. Akira and Ninja Scroll are like the first two animes to really have that such a wide audience and cast such a wide net that people started to go, oh, Japan. Like I remember in the early 90s video game magazines starting to have a section on Japanimation, and I was like, oh, this thing is crazy. And less than a decade later there were channels for anime, like TV channels and stuff for anime, or blocks of television for anime. And
but like you were saying earlier, Jason, it's like it was always sprinkled into our like 5 a.m. to like 6:30 a.m. slots in our lives. If you were one of those kids that woke up way too early as a child, you would catch Samurai Pizza Cats and Sailor Moon.
Well,
and
Samurai
like
Pizza Cats and Sailor Moon were on straight up on YTV in the evening.
Imagine
and that
if
was
you
the
lived on
first
the
time.
but they weren't until late. They were on earlier. Like they were on in those very early slots. And I think that people started to realize that kids were waking up to see it. And they're like, okay, well, I guess we can put this later and they might enjoy it more. And we did. And it had an influence. And like I fucking loved anime when I was like in middle school. I was all about anime. All I drew was anime for like a long time.
There was a straight to VHS Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy V famously never made it here until the late 90s, but straight to VHS Final Fantasy V sequel that was done in the same style of animation. And it's really fucking weird and has nothing to do with the video game, which I'm also playing right now, coincidentally. But I thought it was notable because that shit, Japan, if you lived in Japan from like 1985 to 1995, you probably got so much cool anime. What's that? Son Goku?
Did you draw that, Caleb?
It's not showing up very well. It's showing up okay.
Put your hand behind it. Do influencer hand.
Idea.
That's pretty good, man.
There you go.
That's a good drawing.
Yeah,
don't mind me. Sorry.
That's Goku from original Dragon Ball, right?
Yeah, the
Still
original
tail
Dragon Ball.
And Bulma is like nobody's
funny
perving
one.
over her yet.
The funny one, yeah. The one where he was just like a gross, horny little kid.
Yeah. I remember watching that and being like, what the fuck is this?
Kame is the horny one. He doesn't know. He's not horny. He doesn't have. That's not even a channel in his brain.
Oh, right.
Like,
I'm thinking of the pig who wears the underwear on his head.
Oolong and Master Roshi or Kame are the horny ones.
I think I just attributed horniness to that show in general.
Yeah, that's
Akira. Master Roshi?
Yo, Akira, way to segue. Akira. Toriyama.
I drive an Akira.
I think the police are coming for you for crimes against Japan.
Toriyama didn't draw any of Akira.
No, but I mean the name.
Yeah, he's just taking two Japanese names and saying, That's why he's going to jail. He's going to jail for 25 years. For racism.
He's going to jail for murder for saying something mildly racist. That tracks.
Well,
in our current society, yeah.
Listen, I'm Judge Jury Executioner.
So, Kaylin, I don't have any.
Do you want to hear my shot?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about your cool shot.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say that I've also said everything I have to say about this movie.
Okay, you're ready for me to bring it home?
And AEW Wednesday night AEW Dynamite isn't gonna watch itself.
Whoa. Are you getting a teen burger or a Papa burger or a Grandpa burger?
Nope.
I can still hear you.
That's A&W. I'm talking about AEW.
Oh.
The professional wrestling program, the best professional wrestling program in the world currently.
I will concur.
You don't have. Oh, I thought you were like, I will watch it, and it's like you don't have to, but you might like it. I don't know. Wrestling is a tough sell. I might bring back the wrestling podcast.
Yo, wrestling. I'm not opposed to wrestling. I'm not opposed to a lot of things if I'm with like someone or someone's that enjoy it. Like I enjoy them enjoying it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to ever hang out and watch wrestling, I would also curate it so you wouldn't be like, what is happening? I would just show
Yo,
you like,
what's the Rumble? What's the Royal Rumble? There's a guy that I know. He like puts on like a Royal Rumble party every year, and there's like tickets, and you get money if your guy throws out someone, and
well, you know what the Royal Rumble match is, right?
like 50 people duking it out.
It's 30 people, but yeah, it's 30 people, one person. Somebody comes out every 30 to 90 seconds, depending on the year. Usually 90 seconds. It's kayfabe though, so like it's not. If you actually counted the seconds, it's not 90. Anyway, I digress. Fucking wrestling tinfoil hat on top of my head. I give you a lot of shit. But anyway, that said, it's a match, and then the what you're paying for in those pools is you pick a number, and then if your number wins, you win the pot, and then you can make side bets, which it would be like my person's going to throw this amount of people.
Yeah.
To accurately predict somebody throwing out somebody else would be like lottery level.
No, he does it differently. So there is the winner.
Lottery level? I don't know if that's
Lottery level.
So like there's the main pot for the winner, but as people throw people, so if you're like, you don't have to bet it. It's just if your guy throws out someone, the person you throws out gives you $5. So like you can make some decent side money if your person happens to throw out some people or whatever. But then whoever is the actual winner gets the main. So like everyone pays into the main pot, and then everyone does side pay. Like so you only have to do it once because you get thrown out once, right? But one person could throw out a few people and get like a few $5.
Oh, like if your person throws out. Okay, sorry. Steve's about to be.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Is he giving us that look? Is it that time?
He's gonna answer about Akira, I think.
Have you guys ever had a friend like Kaneda or like Tetsuo in your life?
Oh, that's a good question.
I like to think that I'm Kaneda.
Do you call people idiots?
Yep, all the time.
I'm pretty sure I called both of you guys idiots at least twice this entire podcast so far.
And also, people like Tetsuo are like, I don't know if I've directly known anybody like that as like a friend, but I know that archetype. I know the kind of people that could absolutely get one tiny little bit of superpower and abuse it. While I was watching
Kanye
this movie,
West?
Yep.
Was Kanye West Tetsuo in his thing?
Kind of. He is.
Oh man, that's who should play Tetsuo in the live
action. He would probably pay money to play that character.
You would probably kill it though too.
But the thing is what I learned.
You'd be like, I'll blow you up with my alien eyes.
What I thought about while I was watching this movie would be a month where we do unconventional archetypes, and what I mean by that is do Chronicle, because Max Landis obviously took a lot of inspiration from that.
Is that
character.
The one with the 3 kids?
No, it's like a superhero movie.
Chronicle is that superhero movie where it's like pretty realistic.
With 3 kids, right? They get superpowers?
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan
and the dude that played Green Goblin.
Yeah.
The other ones we could do are Brightburn, because that's like a kid has Superman powers and he starts fucking just murdering everybody.
I thought it was Will Smith and an alien.
No, Brightburn.
He's thinking of Bright.
Oh. Oh, spoilers for Bright. Oh no, Bright is the one with the orcs and like fairies and shit.
Yeah,
but it's
he's
like
thinking of Bright.
Yeah, that is what. My bad.
And the third one I was thinking of is that time travel movie that I can't remember the name of.
Source Code.
No, what's that time travel movie?
The Halloween one. Oh, the one with the machine.
The one with the machine and like the time travel is really subtle in it.
The one with Guy Pearce or whatever his face is.
That's the time machine, and he builds a time machine that takes him through time.
Not the time machine. It's called. Anyway, that was
you
my
idiot.
idea. This movie made me think of Chronicle, and that made me think of a month where we do unconventional shit. We can talk more about it later, but take us home, Kaylin.
I will before we tease the idea of taking it home. You guys called out some dope shots. One shot I want to add to the mix is when Kaneda runs, jumps off the bike.
Primer.
Flying kick the
Primer
guy
is
in
the other
face.
movie. Primer
Say
is
it
the
again?
other movie. Sorry.
What is it?
Primer.
Primer. I've never
Primer.
heard of that.
It's a movie from the early 2000s. It's a time travel movie.
I'm down. Have you seen the movie Powder? It is a beautiful movie. What are you guys laughing at?
I think that's when we know we got to end the podcast. Is when somebody brings up
Hey,
Powder.
did you see this one? Powder.
Yeah.
Think about it.
The flying kick to the face, though. I want to add that as a shot. Also, I want to do a musical shout out to Lupe Fiasco's Tetsuo and Youth.
Cool.
What
is that square plastic you have, though?
It's I see. That's a joke, right? Aha.
Why do you have that?
I believe it's called a compact disc.
It doesn't look
It's
very
called a
compact.
compact disc. They used it 45 years ago.
Oh.
Fuck you guys. Anything else I want to say before you make me end shit? Blah 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 blah.
Oh, you wanted to do your shot.
The shot.
Is
You
the
mentioned
kick
it
the
really
shot?
quickly
No,
and
it
didn't
was
let
a
it
flying
breathe.
kick to the face.
It's very
I
good.
just like that sequence or whatever.
Okay.
You called my shot. My shot was when the guy gets shot up. That shit I fucking loved. Like just like you said, there was like you could feel every bullet hitting him and ripping through him and just like that shit was amazing.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's kill this episode with
We have to do our final thoughts. Yeah.
Exactly. We're gonna kill it with our final thoughts.
Okay.
I'm gonna start first. I'm gonna make it short and sweet. This movie is talked about for a reason. A lot of and the proof is in the pudding. A lot of time and effort went into the production of this, and it really shows the quality of this movie, the quality of what an animation can look like, can be, can make you feel. I wish I saw it sooner. I'm surprised I haven't because it's definitely up my alley. And I'm glad that I finally did and committed. And I hope that for anyone out there that hasn't seen it yet, they go check it out and enjoy the ride. For anyone who has already seen it, you already know what we're talking about. And, we'll see you there. How'd we start? I think we went and then we did. So let's do, I guess, Jason, if you want to go next.
At the end of the day, in my intro, I pretty much ran down how I feel about the movie. Its contribution to Japanese animated entertainment is unparalleled, besides maybe Studio Ghibli, and it's an important movie for a lot of reasons, which we went over during the show. But it's like you have to see this movie if you're a fan of anime, video games. If you want to know where a lot of like tropes have come from in video games and sci-fi, there's not a lot of overt references to Akira besides, The Matrix, and you don't see it very often because it's hard to replicate without ripping off completely, because it's so original and it's so cool. I just wanted, the only things I didn't bring up, we did talk about these things sort of, but I just kind of wanted to run down a list of the direct references that I noticed. And it's Final Fantasy VII, it's Earthbound, the Trapper Keeper episode of South Park has Cartman actually turning into an Akira monster, the Stronger video by Kanye West. Seeing all of those, they're so different. It's such a vast difference between those things that I mentioned, and they've influenced them all so greatly that I have to give this movie with a really hardline 4.5. The only reason it's not a full 5 is because I had to watch I don't speak Japanese, and I had to watch a bad, like the dub isn't very good. The dub could be a lot better. I wish they would recut the dub and do a modern.
It cost them $1 million to fix it the first time.
I didn't.
I bet they'd make $1 billion if they did it again, though.
I can't even find any evidence of this other dub, so we'll have to talk about that after.
I have it right here.
I know you do. That's the proof. The proof is in your hand, my friend. But 4.5 out of 5, and it only loses points because it's old media. But it's an easy sell to people to tell them to watch Akira because most people have seen it already. And if you're a fan of animation, if you're a fan of action, if you're a fan of sci-fi, if you're a fan of violence, it's so violent, but like in the best way. Like animating that violence is so fucking intricate and cool. It's a highly recommend for me, and it always has been, and it always will be. Take it away, Sleeve.
My God. Okay. Oh God. All right. Akira. Good movie.
All right, thanks, Steve.
So I am a big fan of animation. I really do like anime, but I have a big problem with a lot of anime. I think that a lot of anime falls into a samey category in terms of how they animate, in terms of what they do, in terms of their storytelling. And I find myself, it's difficult for me to get into animated television shows, Japanese animated television shows a lot of the time, because it seems like I'm always watching the same stuff. I love Cowboy Bebop. I love Samurai Champloo. I really liked Afro Samurai, which is like one that
so good.
Shout out Vampire Hunter D in that list.
Okay. I haven't seen it, so I can't.
Oh, you should, because it fits in that list very well.
We should do Afro Samurai at some point as well.
In terms of TV shows, I'm familiar, especially with all the ones we already talked about. When I was a kid, I was very, very into anime, and I think it was just the style. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Looney Tunes style animation, but like they have this sort of elasticity in terms of how they animate, and anime really replicates that in a lot of ways in terms of their action. But this movie has its like own visual identity, and even when it comes down to like what you think of in terms of typical anime isn't really represented in this movie. It has been replicated, and it is similar to stuff that came before it, but when you're watching it, you don't feel like you're falling into the tropes of Japanese animation. If anything, you're just constantly and continuously blown away by what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it's so visually amazing that I as I said before, I had trouble even following along with the subtitles, that I almost wish that I had put on the English dub so that I could have just like sat back and watched what was happening, which I might do maybe this weekend, because I really, really enjoy the visuals and I want to just soak them up again. I think that the movie accomplished so much in world building simply through visuals and action. What the people were doing and where they were and their environment, and just the, illustrious, beautiful, glowing buildings that are encroached upon by piles of garbage and muck, and what the people are living in is, it just tells its own story without ever having to shove it down your throat. What these kids are going through just based on what they're doing. They're a biker gang of teenagers, and they're all arguing over whose bike is better. And obviously Kaneda's bike is the best. He's got a jacket that and pants that matches his bike. He's clearly the best one.
Slightly off.
So for me, again, like I could talk forever about the animation of this. It's so good. But if I had to give it a rating, I would give it 23 frames out of 24 frames a second.
Nice.
The music is amazing. It does its job completely appropriately. Everything is told sensibly, and it can be difficult to follow, but at the same time, like if you just kind of like sit back and let the visuals tell the story, you'll be able to get carried through to the end, and you'll understand what's happening. Yeah, and you'll let your your sensibilities will understand what's happening. It's a shitty world. Everybody's fighting, and nobody is a good guy. Nobody is a bad guy. There is literally no villain in this movie, and there's no hero in this movie. The entire movie is just people existing in a world that has been completely destroyed by people, and it's kind of the world. That's kind of our world that we live in every day. So I like it. I like it a lot. I would recommend this movie. I give it 23 frames out of 24 frames a second, and that's my rating.
That's something we didn't touch on, eh? It takes place in 2019.
Yeah, another thing is like 2020 was when Japan held the Olympic Games, and like there's a scene in an Olympic studio. Doesn't that happen?
That's one of the subplots of the movie, that this Olympic stadium is being built.
Don't get the conspiracy theorists going, guys. Leave that to me.
And then underneath the stadium, it's just a giant blob of what's that, ivermectin. It's like that's what he turned into at the end.
Yeah, those are two.
He injected too much ivermectin into his body.
Yeah, and hydrochloroquine.
Yeah.
I give this movie realizing your inner power and using it for good.
Out of what? Using it for bad? It's like
perfect.
One to the other. Okay.
Nailed it.
Right.
And on that note,
hey, you didn't say anything. You just gave it a rating. You didn't give.
I did my final thought, but I forgot to add the rating.
Yeah, he did.
You'll see it on playback. Don't worry.
Did I zone out?
No. Yeah, you were playing with your TikTok or something.
No, he did. That's when he was like, and with that, I give it your final thoughts.
Oh, sorry. I love you, Kaylin.
I love both of you. But on that note, for Jason and Steve, I'm Kellen.
For Kaylin and Steve, I'm Jason.
For Kaylin, for Jason, I am Steven.
And I just got to ask. Hey, did you see this?